Folks, welcome to your Gersnet immediate post-match reaction pod, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson, and again I'm lying through my teeth to you. This is not in any way an immediate post-match reaction. I'm coming to you a good 3.5 hours after full time in Paisley, where Rangers have won by 3-0 against St Mirren in this afternoon's today's lunchtime 12 noon kickoff in the SPFL Premiership. A result that puts us up into second place, and our Rangers fans boasting about going second. That'd be an absolutely disgraceful thing to do. That's not Rangers standards. But we won the battle for third a couple of weeks back, where we beat Motherwell 1-0 at Ibrox when they started the day in third, and we overleaped them, and the team got booed off the park. And today we started the day third. St Mirren were second. St Mirren haven't been beaten in the league so far this season until today, until they met Rangers, and we almost got booed onto the park today. The banner that was unfurled in the away end, kind of summing up how a lot of the fans are feeling about the team right now. We're all disgusted with the result on Thursday night and the total non-performance that went along with it. But having blamed Michael Beale for so much of how the club have failed at the start of this season, I think the banner today, personally speaking, in the away end went a bit too far. So it was several banners it took to unfurl on, I think, about the 8th minute, the message: heartless, passionless, leaderless, not fit to wear the colours. That's too much. It's just too much. When you've got guys in there who have, got us to a European final, got us into our first ever Champions Leagues in 2012, got us into winning the Scottish Cup and going through, part of the team that went through the whole league season unbeaten, 55. I know it's getting further and further away, and you're always going to have one fewer trophies than you lose, but there's a lot of declarations of everlasting loyalty and eternal love made when we won 55. I was there. I remember it. And I think to renege on that in such a spectacular fashion, when you go leaderless with that banner, when you mention leaderless, I think it's obviously James Tavernier you're having a go at. Now, perhaps not fit to wear those colours, the directors wearing their club ties or whatever, maybe it's extending to them as well. And I know every support is it's a kind of ecosystem. Every support of every football club, there's different aspects to every support. That's why you've got your singing section being more clearly defined these days. You've got your posh seats. You've got the kind of run-of-the-mill areas of the ground where people are neither particularly up nor down. They just want to see their team doing well and have a wee moan when they don't, but that's it. And I love the Union Bears. I love them. I love the Brimlin Collective. I'm well past the age and the physicality of being a part of them. But the last 3 or 4 games under Michael Beale, we would have lost all of them had it not been for the Union Bears, because Ibrox was a morgue. It really was a morgue, and they turned it into at least a library because they were creating enough noise, enough kind of rhythm for the players to play to in a deathly atmosphere that guys like me were making a lot worse by not being able to really get that excited about anything. So, and the banners that the Union Bears put up, they do that in so many games, the Union Bears, and the more kind of fundamentalist, if you like, supporters. And young guys should be when they're going into football. That's what it's all about. And I went round to the Brimlin a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember what game would that be after, but it'd be after that Motherwell game, to film a post-match reaction pod just as the Union Bears were trying to come out the Brimlin, and something happened, and the police, the way they weighed into them, horses practically going under, right into the kind of into the actual Brimlin itself, almost getting in through the emergency exits, and the police were pepper spraying them and batoning them and everything. And I was going to film it, and a young boy for the Union Bears said, "No, don't bother, because they'll end up using it against us. We've got our own folk filming this kind of stuff, and we'll deal with it through the complaints process." So they really do the business. The banners that the Union Bears put up, the tifos that they put on display, should I say, in the Brimlin through our European run to Seville, and just basically for all the European games since we've come back into the top flight, have been absolutely beautiful. Have been amongst the most beautiful moments of my life supporting Rangers. That one before the Leipzig game with the old bullfighting poster, for Barcelona 72, that was It's just one of the greatest moments of my life as a Rangers supporter. So I'm not doing that thing. It's not about, for me, all-out condemnation or whatever. I know we need everybody who supports Rangers to be reacting the way they do sometimes, but that, for me, today was a bit too much. I have to be honest. And this is just it's a post-match reaction. This isn't a match report, and also I am not speaking for Gersnet. I'm just speaking for myself, and I'm really lucky to be on Gersnet, give my reaction. I don't want to get too kind of po-faced here, sorry. It's not exactly very funny. Rangers have won 3-0 today, but I've had to cancel 4 or 5 previous attempts to do this pod. That's why it's so late. There's a few post-match reaction pods on the old cutting room floor, he says, try to make out as something more sophisticated than a fat old man talking to his phone in a bedroom. But I got a kind of a horrible feeling of self-righteousness when James Tavernier scored those goals today for us. It's not something I like to feel. I don't like to feel upset at my fellow supporters, particularly hypocritical from me when, on Thursday, I was ranting and raving along with the best of them about the paucity of character, the actual lack of performance over there in Cyprus, and when I was a real privilege to be asked onto Gersnet on the Friday night, do the Friday night pod with Dougie, and you get to talking. Dougie's a great guy. He knows his Rangers stuff, and we're talking to other Rangers fans. That's basically what it's all about, just an exchange of ideas and to be able to vent, and get it out of our system how bad we're feeling about the way things have been going just now and that performance in Cyprus. For me now to be given it, well, how did you slag that team? It's not that straightforward. It is not that straightforward. But I feel as if James Tavernier has been getting it just far too severely, and always has been in his whole time as a Rangers player. It's difficult. It's difficult to know where to stop when you're angry with the team. It's difficult to know where to stop with the lashing out. But I feel we got rid of the manager. Michael Beale has gone. They're now being looked after by a caretaker manager. And that never works. Stephen Davis has been a football manager for, well, basically as long as I can get this pod out if this is the best effort I can manage, it will be less than a week, because it was I imagine it was about 8 o'clock last Sunday night that he found out he was going to be a manager. He's not even coaching the youths or anything like that. He's not in charge of the reserves. He's a player. He's a registered player, and we want him back fit. He's going to be able to contribute on the park for Rangers this season, hopefully. And he's just found out not only as a manager, but as his mates, he's managing his teammates, and it's one of the biggest clubs in the world. So, as I was saying to Dougie on Friday night, the last time we had a caretaker management team was the League Cup semi-final against Hibs when Steven Gerrard had just left us. And that was a disaster that day, and that team then went on 7 months later, they won a European final. So I think you've always got to be careful not to isolate yourself. There will be Rangers fans today who were angry that Rangers won. I know that for a fact. I've had them communicating, talking to me, because they wanted the players, they wanted this to be the last. Having the loss to Aberdeen last week, got rid of Michael Beale, and I had that feeling where I was as long as the score didn't get any worse, I didn't want us to go 4-1, 5-1 down, which could have happened last Saturday against Aberdeen at Ibrox. I was less than distressed that we were going to lose this game, because I thought it was just proving that it was time for Michael Beale to go. By the time it got to the second half, you knew he wasn't going to be able to turn this round. But to be wishing for that twice in a week is a bit much. A lot of people today were hoping that Rangers would fail. Rangers fans were hoping that Rangers would fail, so that the players could be thrown out the club as well. And I think when we've had in the last week the reaction to the 2 games we've lost in the last week, for a lot of people has been, we should have Ryan Kent back. Alfredo Morelos would have done better than that. We should never have loaned Hadji out. It's dangerous from a personnel point of view to be wishing rid of players who, the last week has told us we might well be wishing they were back soon enough. And it's also, I think it's a lonely place for you as a supporter to, particularly that second goal that James Tavernier has scored today, if you can't celebrate that because you feel, it's proven a point that you don't believe in, that James Tavernier is, I think he is a legend, but we'll park that argument, as they say, as your Callums and your Blairs would say. We'll park that just now and just deal with the fact that James Tavernier is fit to be Rangers captain. I've always thought he's more than fit enough to be Rangers captain. He's the fittest player we've got, pun intended. And for him to slam that goal in today, and you're thinking, oh damn, that means he's not going to be leaving probably. I feel that's a lonely, lonely place to be. I don't want that for any Rangers supporter. And that's why I get to a point where I'll cut it off the criticism, I'll cut it off with the level to which I'm condemning our own players, no matter how poorly they're playing. There was people calling James Tavernier a fraud a loser. It's, for me, there's Maradona in 1986 and James Tavernier in 2021, 2022, that run after Christmas getting us to Seville in terms of one player dragging his teammates by the scruff of the neck and taking them to glory. I thought he was absolutely, he's been a phenomenal servant for us, and I was so glad that after that goal, that magnificent goal he scored at the end today, which is an aesthetic and a joyous, such a pleasing moment, such a beautiful thing. The very reason you pay to go and watch football matches, or in my case, pay to watch it on television. And that's one of the reasons I need to dial down my reaction. I've had to bin a lot of the previous attempts at this reaction pod, is because I'm Ibrox and Hampden only, as I'm always saying. I'm Ibrox and Hampden only these days. I've never seen Rangers at that stadium. I've seen Rangers at Love Street so many times down the years, and we've been terrible so many times. We don't do well in Paisley generally. And so people who are going, these guys that are going to the games today, they're unfurling the banner, but they're there. They're there physically and financially, literally supporting Rangers. So their say counts more than mine. I'm always happy to kind of give them their place. But I feel that some of the stuff that's been thrown at Tav has just been far, far too much. And that goal was just a thing of absolute beauty. And yet, the penalty that he scored, when we were in the situation we were in, it was like as soon as it was obvious that it was going to be a red card to St Mirren at 0-0, it was a red card for the St Mirren player. We were going to get the penalty, thinking this could just be the new low that we hit when we're up against 10 men and we've got a penalty and we can't put it away. But unlike when the same thing happened roughly with Pedro Caixinha, his last game was in October again. We've been through so many managers over the years, over the last 10 years. When Steve Clarke's first game as Kilmarnock manager, we're pounding Kilmarnock midweek. We're only beating them 1-0. No, can't get the second goal. We get a penalty in injury time, and that's, thank God, we're going to put this to bed. Kilmarnock save the penalty, throw it up the park, and equalise before the final whistle. And that's Pedro gone. You're wondering that this was going to be the same thing today. At the very point you think we've got a break. And it wasn't the manager that was going to get sacked today. It was the players. If Tav had missed that penalty, if he'd bottled out taking it, what a man. For me, it's everything you want from a leader. He's telling those players last week to get them their asses back out that tunnel and back onto the park and walk round the park taking the abuse. Because there was no way. They tried to do the same. They're thanking you. They're trying to thank the fans for coming to the game. And that's what they were doing after the Celtic defeat at the beginning of last month, a month ago. And they were getting told, you're trying to have a lap of honour. Of course they're not trying to have a lap of honour. And this is what happens. People start almost making stuff up in an attempt to, I don't know what, probably expressing their own anger. Life's hard just now. It's a lot of money forked out going to the football. People you're supporting the football team. There's a cost of living crisis just now. And people's lives are just crap, generally. So much going on with everybody, and we all kind of express it. We all get it out of our system through the social valve of football so often. I don't want to condemn people for getting that a bit wrong. Mr. Perfect here, and the judgments I make. But it was getting to the stage where, he went in the press conference that day after the defeat to Celtic, James Tavernier, and after what happened to Connor Goldson, when he tried to fully apologise and just say how garbage they had been and admit full responsibility. After that League Cup semi-final against Hibs a couple of seasons ago, and he got slaughtered. He totally misinterpreted what he meant, and he got absolutely slaughtered for it. And Tav knows there's a lot of fan media in the pressers now, idiots like me, and he's thinking that's just no point. There's no point in trying to apologise. There's no point. So it was like, what's he like with the kind of curtailed, the circumvented answers? He's been so taciturn and this kind of thing. He just doesn't care and all that. Him to step up and take that penalty today. Hey, maybe it's because he doesn't. Maybe it can be a condemnation in itself. He was so ice cool for him stepping up and taking that penalty today because he doesn't care. So why would he be nervous? Even that doesn't matter. Because the fact that he scored 54 penalties, that was his 54th penalty that he scored for Rangers. That in itself, that rate of penalty taking in conversion, we've all seen him missing the penalties, but to put away so many penalties is in and of itself a sign of class and mental strength, fortitude, character. The very stuff that was going to be on display today. Never mind the 21 goals he scored from outside the box. Yes, I am using the stats that Sky put up in the 91st minute after he put in his 107th goal for Rangers. The man's a right back. He's a full back. We know he's a wing back, and that's part of the reason I don't take on board the criticisms of his defending as kind of deeply as some people do, because I know in the modern game that's a gamble that's taken, that's a risk, unacceptable, because it's collateral almost for the way he goes forward, is some of the defensive frailties that's going to incur if we are under pressure. But for a full back, he's basically on a goal every third game for like over 300 appearances for Rangers. I think he's a magnificent leader, a magnificent captain, and I was so happy for him today that it became kind of vindictive, and it was coming out in my previous attempts at doing this pod, and I don't want to get into that. But I just feel as if Tav has been under so much pressure, and the slagging he's been taking, and that banner gets unfurled today, and he's got his back to it because he's playing up the park. It's in the first half, so he's playing up the other end, so he's not got time to be turning around and reading banners. But when the Sky, is it the guy? I can never remember the guy's name. The guy does the interviews, the post-match interviews for Sky. He's a good journalist and what have you, but Sky's awful. Its coverage is terrible. You can feel the Rupert Murdoch horrible tabloid sensationalist legacy there, in the way Chris Sutton is just trying to antagonise, and this whole thing of it's this whole thing of if you can wind somebody up, you've won. It's winding somebody up isn't difficult. You just insult people. It's not difficult in any way to wind people up. Let's create something. Let's give us some analysis of a football match. But it's all very pantomime. But the guy who does the interviews, he was trying it with Stephen Robinson as well. This is not an anti-Rangers thing. Stephen Robinson, the St Mirren manager, happily, or not happily, but he definitely admitted it was a penalty. It was a handball, the incident that led to our first goal. And the player Blair, that I think, is it Blair? Mayer, the guy that plays for St Mirren, he was sent off. And he said they couldn't argue with it. So he didn't. So your Sky, post-match interviewer wasn't getting the controversy he wanted from that. So he went for, well, what about the player himself? He shouldn't be doing stuff. You must be raging with him, Stephen. Got to leave it. Got to, give me something. And it was like, oh, these things happen. Obviously, he's got to judge it better. Blah blah blah. And the fella with the microphone was trying the same thing with Stephen Davis. Do you think he should be beaten a team with 10 men by more than 3-0? And Stephen Davis says, "Oh, listen, I'm just going to keep it positive. I'm just all about the positivity." He's basically telling him, "I'm not going to be negative." And being honest, self-effacing and professional enough and just classy enough to ride above that. And I think James Tavernier, who can be under absolutely no doubts about how much so many of the fans don't like him, because he was, I say, after that Motherwell game, trying to get other players back down the tunnel to come round those stands and take the abuse that he knew they were going to be taking. I had a lot of respect for John Lundstrom that day as well. He's going to make them take that abuse. When he was asked by the same Sky post-match interviewer today, how did you, they're basically questioning your leadership, and he just refused to bite. It didn't even look like he knew how to bite. It was just kind of, the fans are right to be upset, and they're quite right, and we're trying to go on and push on and do our best to make sure we are fit to wear that jersey. And I just thought I could actually have great. Because I was saying in my stupid old post-match reaction pod the other night, on Thursday night, I don't like these people who come on and tell you they're emotional without giving you the reasons why. There's a lot of people on things like pods and what have you these days trying to rant and rave and work themselves into a frenzy. Just discuss the facts, and if there's any emotion there, it will come out. And I feel as if today that if you think it's a big deal having an emotion, I mean, we're all completely emotional creatures. If you think it's a big deal, a badge to be worn that you've had an emotion, then you really need to be in hospital or in a reality TV programme or in politics. It's not a biggie, and yet here I am today just doing that very thing. I can't help myself getting worked up. I did the same in that pod the other night. I started ranting and raving and swearing and rubbing my head in despair. By the way, this is available for advertising. This space here is your advert here. But I just thought James Tavernier has been through so much. He's had so much abuse, and he just keeps going and setting records and setting standards, I think, at Rangers. And people, is the standards not winning any trophies, for only winning 3 trophies in 11 seasons or something, or 2 trophies in 11 seasons. It's like, well, he's not been here that whole time, but he's been doing it since he's been in the lower leagues with us, and he scored a great free kick in his debut. He's taken us to a European final. He's played in the Champions League and scored one of only the 2 goals we scored in a horrendous Champions League campaign. And there he is, doing it again in the top flight today to push us back up in the league at a time where we don't have a manager. We don't have a full-time manager. I think you need to imagine a scenario. Can we just try and imagine a scenario where the players, this team, the leadership group and what have you, the senior players, they've got a manager there coming in this season who was part of the management team under Steven Gerrard, somebody who knows them really well. They've got a lot of close close relationships with built up in thick and thin. And it's been all thick and thin. There has been plenty thick as well as the thin over the past few years for these players. So they've got to do it for Michael Beale. They've got to try for Michael Beale. They have that kind of feeling this is a guy they could be letting down or whatever. He's a friend of theirs. They've got a lot of close there's a lot of tightness with them there, and he's basically knocked back the Wolves job, if you like, to come and get the Rangers job. So they might feel they owe him or whatever, and it's not working. It's not been working all season. When they're bringing in all these new players as well, they're trying to link up with. We used to have Ryan Kent, who we could give the ball to, and he'd take the pressure off us for a bit, even though that was never appreciated as much as it should by the support because he didn't score enough. Even in his good days, we had Alfredo Morelos, we'd just take the ball and give the team a break and what have you. And now we don't even have Todd Cantwell, he's injured. We don't have that out ball that we can rely on to take the pressure off. It's just everybody has been held up. The kind of leadership group has been held to account in a really terrible time for the club. And these players, it's also the third manager they've had in 2 years. Steven Gerrard left the club to go to a club with much more money because he was doing so well with these players. And I don't have any doubt that a lot of promises were made to them after 55 by the board about, they could leave if we didn't get into the Champions League or something. That was very confusing for them. I think that explains the performance at the start of that season. But they've been in a difficult situation. This is the third manager that they've seen going in the space of less than 3 years. Less than 2 years. And now we have Steve Davis, their teammate, is coming in. A guy that they all love and who loves all of them and they're playing with. And suddenly he's going to be in charge. And I feel as if there's too much of them trying to do it for him. I don't think it was any coincidence. It was newer players who were trying their hearts out the other night against Limassol and just weren't good enough. Were just poor. And it was Goldson and Lundstrom and Tav and Borna who were rank, because they don't, I think it's just getting too much. Can you imagine a scenario where I feel as if that's maybe what's happening. They've got a caretaker manager. It doesn't work. It never works. And yet they went out there today knowing that with the manager gone last weekend and that terrible performance the other night, the whole country, not even Rangers supporters, is looking at them thinking, right, let's see you fall to pieces. And they didn't. They stood up to it. It's a terrible game. Not a terrible game. It wasn't the best game, but I think that actually shows more. It's more of a slog. It shows the character more. And when Rangers got that first goal, Zach Lovelace, who was with his cries to get rid of the whole team this weekend and just put out the youth team, field the youth team, as Dougie quite rightly pointed out on Friday night. Well, the youth team is playing in Monaco at Ibrox on Saturday, so that's not going to happen. But boys that I have seen this time last season, I was watching them playing in the Europa Youth League, the UEFA Youth League against Ajax and Napoli and Liverpool. I saw them playing Gretna up at Dumbarton in the Lowland League a few months back. Ross McCausland, he came in as a sub the other night against Limassol in Cyprus. He eventually came on as a sub again today for his kind of B team teammate Zach Lovelace, and Bailey Rice gets on at the end as well. And I didn't rate Zach Lovelace. I thought he was a cracking player for his age, for the level he was playing at, but I didn't see enough to convince me that he should he should get promoted to the first team in any time soon. And any idea though that he was just brought into the first team today because we needed to punish somebody, and Sam Lammers, being a new boy, was going to get it. He was dropped, as was Dessers, as was Ben Davis. It was blown out the window by the lad's performance. I thought Zach Lovelace was absolutely fantastic, and just shows you that's why I can't go too hard on anybody because my opinions are rank. But he I think it was 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes of the game, St Mirren couldn't get into our half. They get near our box in about the 11th minute and Conor Goldson took a yellow card straight away to stop anything happening, and I thought that was a sign of determination rather than desperation. St Mirren had a corner at that point and I think that was it. I get cleared easily, and we then have Zach Lovelace combining well with Cifuentes, I think, who come onto a game today, and he puts the ball across the face of the goal. You've seen it in television, folks, so I'm doing a match report here, that's not what we're after. Seema's at the back post ready to put it in. Roof's also throwing himself at it. A quiet game, Roof, he's definitely he's struggling for fitness, but he's giving of his best. And that was it. Nick Walsh took a long time with the VAR. They had to go and have a look at the screen. Took a long time to decide, but I think it's because he's deciding, have Rangers done anything wrong in the build-up? Also, is it a penalty? Is it a handball? It's a clear handball. I think even Kenny Miller, my favourite, was part of the poor Sky commentary today. He couldn't see it straight away, and I just thought, what? thought the evidence was inconclusive. He eventually come round to it, but I saw it, even with these big specs, maybe it's the big specs that helped me see it, but it was clearly a penalty, and it became clear it was a red card as well. So the referee had to take his time getting all these aspects correct, and I said it was a huge pressure moment for Tav to step up, but he slotted it away like a king. And I think it was only then the injury to Zach Lovelace, who's he get pulled up with a thigh injury, and they're sitting at the side of the park in tears, the lad, and getting called a cheat by the St Mirren fans. And I think that's why the banner upsets me. Everybody in Scotland hates us anyway. We don't need to be hating. We don't need to be hating our own team. We can hate the results, we can hate the lack of performances, and we can be really upset and angry with players, but there comes a point you've just got to rein it in, because it's just point them to how the rest of Scotland feel about them, and that's enough. And I don't say that through, I mean, we didn't sing a Catholic for 80 years, we sing sectarian songs, they come out today because everybody's upset, and that's how, things don't get expressed properly. I understand that at football. And that's what's happened today as well. I think Sky was starting to pipe in the fake crowd noise at some point, because it was getting a bit tasty, some of the songs. But he's getting called a cheat by the St Mirren fans. Well, it's actually he's going down because he's pulled a muscle or something like that. He went off the park in tears. And there was a couple of cracking saves from their goalkeeper, from Connor Goldson, and Nicholas Raskin, who had a great game today. A couple of good saves to the St Mirren goalie. That stopped us piling on before half time. But into the second half, we started the second half really poorly. McCausland said come on for Zach Lovelace, was it? Yeah. On the right hand side, we had Seema on the left. He was playing really well. It was initially Roof through the middle. Dougie and myself were surprised that Borna Barisic kept his place. We thought he would be swapped today from Thursday's lineup for Ridvan Yilmaz, just because that was one of the easier one of the easier changes that Stephen Davis could make, but he didn't. Borna stayed in, and it was proved correct because he had a good game today. And it was John Souttar was in place of Ben Davis in the back four. There was only real change. I think it was a 4-3-3 more than the 4-2-3-1. It's the Fuentes in there with Lundstrom and Raskin. But when we came out to start the second half, but we didn't pile on. We hadn't got that second goal. You're thinking, is this another case of we can't get the second goal? And you could start to envisage, the thing that cost us for the past few years, not being able to react well to going behind or taking the lead. And I thought, is this going to be the day where, we failed to beat somebody with 10, we failed to beat a 10 with 10 men? I did St Mirren and finally get revenge for that time we beat them with nine men in the League Cup final. But no, we persisted. And then it was just a lovely move. It was a lovely move on the right hand side, really well built up with Connor Goldson and Cifuentes and what have you, and young McCausland. And the ball goes over, lovely ball over the top, and it's Nico Raskin. He squares it to Seema, it's a really hard finish. It's maybe it's because I'm a left footer. It's difficult to imagine how you can do that, but it's a left-footed finish. It's a right-footed finish into the bottom left-hand corner. It's quite an awkward-looking shot, but it's one that totally takes the goalie out of it. It's a cracking finish, and Seema was delighted. The guy was absolutely delighted, and it was. I'm slagging the Sky commentary, but there's Ian Crocker was telling us it's 6 starts. He scored. His last 6 starts, he scored 6 goals, and no one's done that since one Alfredo Morelos. That was fantastic for Seema. He tried his heart out the other night, even though everyone wasn't coming off from him, but he got his goal in Cyprus, and he got another one today, and you felt, yeah, that's it. Even then, you're thinking, if St Mirren pull one back, Stephen Robinson's quite good. They've been unbeaten in the league so far this season. Stephen Robinson's a major tactician, and we remember him from we're talking of League Cups. Remember when he was Motherwell manager in that League Cup semi-final? 40,000 Rangers supporters there, and they beat us 2-0 by beating us up as well. And there was a few tasty tackles going on. I thought Nico Raskin was treated really badly. The referee didn't look after him at all. But we push on nevertheless, and then it's just literally as the clock is going, kind of 89 to 90, it's just getting towards the end of the 90th minute. We knew there was only 3 minutes of injury time coming up, and the points were pretty much in the bag. Tav pushes up from the middle, and he has one shot from about maybe 20 yards out, tries to curl one in, and it gets repelled, comes back off the St Mirren defence, and Gogic is in his way as the rebound comes out, as Tav pushes on into the little D for the penalty spot. They keep you outside the penalty spot, the wee D at the edge of the penalty spot. Tav pushes Gogic with the number 13 for all the bad luck we've been having recently, and a big Cypriot international, and just kind of symbolically throws him out the way, and just lashes this thing right in the top corner, just lashes it right in the top corner. Just a fantastic goal. And if you're one of the happy clapper loyal RSC bus members like myself, that was a proper, not just out the seat moment, but kind of out your head for a few seconds. I lost a few seconds of time there, and quite happy to donate that to the Cosmos, because it was just a magical moment. I was so happy for James Tavernier and for myself, and the players have had a chance. Steve Davis obviously thinks from his post-match interview, and quite happily too, that a new manager is going to take over during this international break. But I'm happy that the players got a chance without that new manager to show. Everybody's looking at them, everybody's wanting something from the players, and Mirren has set themselves up to be ready to turn us over today, and we turned them over, and I'm so happy for those players, and I'm so happy that we can just maybe get ourselves back on an even keel. You'll be happier to know that I'm coming to an end of this strange post-match reaction. There's been a lot of emotion about this week, folks, and I had to rein it in a bit, and it's maybe come across a bit plasticky, but I've done the business today, and you'll be happy to know that I can now hand you over to tonight's flagship show on our YouTube channel, the Gersnet YouTube channel. It's live on that. It'll be available on all platforms afterwards. At 9:30, it's going to be Brian in the hot seat, and he'll be talking to Ian and John. So it's Brian Archer, Ian Duff, and John McCallum, and they will give you a properly sober analysis of today's match and everything that's been happening and not happening for the last week and for this season in general. Thanks for your time, folks, and enjoy your night. One team, one support.